Hello and welcome back to the Arsenal Women's Chat Show, where we are streaming across the Mr. Arsenal podcast, the Highbury Fans Forever, and of course right here on the Arsenal Women's Chat Show YouTube channels. On tonight's show, we will be looking ahead to obviously the Everton game, but before that we'll obviously touch on the Villa game at the weekend, and of course the most important thing that anybody probably would have been on this show tonight to see our reactions to the news of departures today. Unfortunately, Arsenal made 3 huge announcements that, of course, Beth made, but Viv Palova and, of course, Laia Kadina will all be leaving us at the end of the season. But before I move on to that, I'll introduce you to my guests. So, Kev, how are you? How was your weekend?
Weekend was great, fantastic weather. Got a little bit of colour, and it was a cracking ride up there and back. But I wouldn't recommend anybody does much more than 340 miles on a motorbike in a day.
Were you doing over the speed limit again?
No comment.
Anthony, nice to have you back on the show again. Are you doing well?
I am, Laura. Thanks very much. Thanks for having me on again.
No worries. It's always a pleasure to have you on. And of course, we had to go with a Welshman in Reese. So how are you doing, Reese?
Yeah, I'm all right, thanks. I was at Villa as well. And as Kev said, there were a lot of people who were far more pink coming out than they were going in.
I hope they fed you some water. Did they at least give you that?
I'm sure we'll come on to that, Laura. I have views.
I've been hearing some things that it wasn't a very good place to be at the weekend. But we'll obviously touch on that when we get to the whole Villa segment. So I'll move on to my next guest, which of course is my amazing husband next to me, who just celebrated a birthday. So 1 year older, nearly 45.
Not quite that old, but the bones are certainly feeling it. And for once, I've actually managed to find myself a day off where I can actually be on one of these things. So I'm probably picked the most interesting one to be on.
Yeah. Tissues at the ready, folks, because we're all going to be crying on this show tonight. So and then leave the best till last. Paul, how are you?
Yeah, I'm all good, thank you. Glad to be handing the reins back over to you for tonight's show.
You do well, Paul. Don't put yourself down like that.
When you're hosting and pressing the buttons all at the same time and trying to watch the comments.
Yeah, and trying to keep on the whole path of what you're actually on to talk about. Like it can be tricky sometimes. You can lose track. So you can. Yeah, I know you're feeling. So obviously, before we go into the weekend's game that's just passed, we obviously saw today that, as I said, that 3 announcements from Arsenal were made with Laia Kadina, Vic Palova, and of course Beth Mead. And I think 2 of those departures didn't really shock us. And then, of course, the Beth Mead one comes out, and it's a little bit of a shock to the system to most people. And of course, I'll read out some of Beth's stats at Arsenal, which are 1 WSL title in 2019, 3 League Cups, 1 UEFA Women's Champions League, 1 FIFA Club World Cup champions. And of course, she made 265 appearances with 86 goals. So that's obviously, like, no one will ever deny that Beth was a great servant to obviously the club. But Anthony, what do you think was Beth's decision making and obviously leaving the club?
I think the most obvious one would be the fact that Viv's in Manchester. I mean, that must have had a part in it. But this time last season, she was being approached by London City Lionesses. To be approached by Man City would be an upgrade, really, on London City Lionesses. As you probably probably thought this is a good time to leave Arsenal as well, having won the Champions League with us last year. And to be quite honest, like you say, I don't think she'll get much. She's not going to be picked ahead of Carolyn and Lauren Hemp, and that's assuming City aren't going to buy any more players. But I think it was probably a good time for her to leave. She leaves on a high. She leaves with her head held high. You know, the last three things that she did for us: the assist for the Champions League winning goal, the goal that opened the game at Chelsea, and that's what we'll remember her for. So she has left on a high.
Obviously, we all know, Anthony, that she was heavily rumoured to be offered another contract, but today there's also rumours that it was a mutual agreement between obviously both player and club, which I don't know how many other people are feeling about that, but if for me, if it was a mutual decision between club and player, then for me it was a decision that Beth was always going to make sometime soon. So it was.
Sorry.
No, on you go.
Yeah. No. I think it's probably a good time for us as well that that decision has been made for us so we can go for someone younger on the wing. The only thing is, it looks like we are going to have we are going to renew Caitlin now. So I don't know. I don't know where that leaves us in terms of getting a new winger.
Yeah, I think today maybe shocked us most about obviously it being Beth, because many Arsenal fans obviously thought Caitlin Ford is going to leave simply because obviously the rumour is that Katie McCabe was going to leave, but then now the rumour is that we're obviously in advanced talks again with Katie just possibly staying. And of course, the way I see it was Beth always the one that was leaving, and we just assumed it was Caitlin Ford. Like we don't know. We're not behind the scenes of that. So, but yeah, as obviously you can see in the picture there, it is a sad one. But thank you very much, Beth, for everything you've done for us at Arsenal. You will be sorely missed. But unfortunately, we do have to move on. Many of us have been screaming for seasons upon seasons to start clearing out some of these older Arsenal players and potentially moving on. And unfortunately, it's football. Football does happen. We can't always just stay in that position where we're going to just keep keeping these players simply because the one is a Champions League or the one is the league eventually, but we just can't keep these players, unfortunately. Now, obviously, on to Laia Kadina, Paul. Were you surprised by this one, considering we heard that Laia was obviously rumoured to have triggered that 1 year extension?
Not really. I think once Leah and Steph, the announcements were made that they were signing extensions, and obviously Katie Reid coming back into training following the ACL and how well she started the beginning of this season, I thought it was only a matter of time before Laia left. And again, same thing as with Beth, if we're having a clear out at the moment and we're potentially looking at a few players coming in, we need to be just getting on with it right now and just having that clear out. And are we just keeping her as a backup player? You look at how many minutes she hasn't played for us this season. I think she's played more in the last sort of 3 games than she has for the whole of the rest of the season combined. So yeah, I'm not surprised at all, and it's probably about the right time for her to move on for the club and for her.
Yeah, definitely. I think as George keeps touching on there that we've got to remember that Laia Cadena, with a fit Katie Reid, with a fit Leah Williamson, obviously a fit Steph Catley, and of course Lotte Wubben-Moy, she does currently sit fifth, but that's not taking away what obviously she has achieved at Arsenal, and of course, unfortunately, being a nice person in and around the club isn't going to get us any further than what we need to be at going forward into the next season. And again, it's another one that we've got to thank for the service, and unfortunately, we have to move on from them. And the question I do ask now is, if Katie Reid doesn't come back the player that she was before she tore her ACL, which we have seen before, that players don't come back normal after that kind of injury, is Paul, now do we bring in another experienced centre-back, maybe one with height, maybe one with a little bit more experience? I'm not saying that Laia Cadena's not experienced, let's not brush that aside. I mean, a World Cup winner, twice Champions League winner, like don't brush that aside with Laia Cadena, but do you think we need to bring in a centre-back with more height, because it's something we have questioned recently in set pieces?
I think the whole question there is with the Katie McCabe contract as well. If Katie's not signing, then I think we need to bring in a left-sided centre-back that can play either as a left-back or as a left centre-back, because we know we've got people that can play over on the right, but the left could be a little bit weak if Katie doesn't sign that contract. So I think that all goes hand in hand together.
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see where Steph Catley plays mostly next season, especially with left back being her normal position as well. So it'll be a very interesting season, especially if we do Katie McCabe. I know someone in the group chat today was saying that it could possibly, if Katie stays, that it could possibly push her back up into the wing position, which is a natural position before Jonas decided to put her at left back. So again, we just have to wait and see what's going to happen in the summer, and of course it'll be a very, very interesting one at that. Reece, obviously the last one that we will talk about is obviously Vic Pulova. Now, before Vic's ACL injury, she was becoming the player that we wanted to see. We were at one point maybe saying this is Kimmy Little's replacement, but then has never returned at the same level. Do you think Arsenal simply can't afford to give Vic any more time going into next season, and that's the reason why she's leaving?
Yeah, I think after her article a few weeks ago saying she was disappointed with the time she's got, the writing was pretty much on the wall. I think she's not comfortable with the role that Slagers has for her, being that bit deeper in midfield. You know, when she played for the Netherlands against Wales last year in the European Cup, she tore us apart, but she was playing much higher up the pitch. Mm-hmm. I think that's where she's most comfortable, and I don't think she has the kind of the natural defensive qualities that we need in our midfield and from what we want our midfield to do. And I think in that situation, it's, you know, if that's not her game and if that's what we need, then it just makes sense for both parties to move on, because, you know, she'll probably go on and have a great career playing somewhere else if she can get a place playing the role that she wants and that she's naturally good at. And I just think sometimes there just isn't a fit between the player and what the club wants from them, and that's fine. You know, that's all right. Players evolve, teams evolve, and they just move on from each other. I think, you know, it is a shame that we haven't seen her get back to what we saw before the injury, because people have short memories and you just remember, you know, you'd hate for people just to remember this season of her, because I don't think that's a fair reflection on who she is as a player, because we know that she can be quite devastating in certain situations. But I think Slagers has decided, you know, she knows what she wants from midfield, and Vic's just not capable of doing that for her. So it just makes sense all round.
Yeah, definitely. I think in terms of midfield, it looks like we're going to go a completely different route going into next season, especially with linked rumours to Geraldine Whittler, Georgia Stanley. I think those are two completely different players, etc. But I think it's very clear that Renee knows exactly what she wants going forward, and unfortunately, Vic Pullover obviously isn't in those plans for Renee by the looks of it. It would be very interesting to see where my favourite player, as many people know, where she'll slot into that midfield next season, and obviously we know that her contract was renewed before the end of last season, so there's obviously a little while left on her one. Or are we going to allow her to maybe move on, because that's another player that's also not going to want to waste away on the bench the way some of these midfielders have been wasting away. So yeah, again, it will be a very, very interesting summer. And of course, before we move on to talking about the Villa game, as Arsenal fans, we just want to thank these players for their servants at the club, especially Beth Mead. It's been a very exciting career for her, and we just want to wish them all the luck in their next endeavours. And yeah, and that's it from us in terms of departures. It's time to move on. I'm really sorry if we told Reece to get your tissues back out again, but we do have to touch on them, and we'll move on. So we'll move on to obviously the Villa game from the weekend, which obviously really started off as a really good game. We went into the Villa game really strong, especially when we get the goal 4 minutes in. Obviously, James, I'll come to you. Do you think on Saturday Arsenal were out to prove a point that the second spot is going to be theirs?
I don't know so much about proving a point. It was, I say that obviously heading into the game, it was pretty much pressure off. At that point, we knew there was nothing we could do in terms of the league. The shake-up was back on. Players, but some players that maybe should have got a bit more game time than what they have had get in. And obviously got a couple of good buys in terms of others. But it was a good overall performance, a good result. It was just it's a shame as much as it was a really good team effort, it was a shame to turn around and look at that and go, if the result before the game before it went away, what could I probably have been? But we move on. I think second place, I don't think it's that much of a threat. It's just a case of keeping that final push going.
Yeah. Kev, obviously, once again, we're talking about now, obviously, Smila Holmberg sets up the goal for Alessia Russo to obviously trouble the Villa backline, and obviously Alessia Russo was the one to get a head on it, and then she obviously hits the top of the net. Now, we're talking about Smila Holmberg once again. Now, what a player she has been for us, but could you see a positional change for her next season, or maybe moving into the right wing position, or do you see her staying as a right back for us?
I can see her playing right wing next season. I mean, her crossing ability is she's probably the best crosser of the ball we've got at the moment. And to be fair, we haven't seen that much of her at right back. Because even when she's played at right back and we've rested Foxy, it's been against teams that she's been able to push on anyway. So, yeah, for me, the way things stand, without more signings, I can see her playing at right wing.
Yeah. I think I would prefer to see her in the left wing next season, just because of she's very pacey. Like, she knows exactly where she wants to put the ball. I know people may look at her sometimes and think she's just putting that ball anywhere and hoping it will hit an Arsenal player. But I do personally think when I watch her, she knows exactly where she wants the ball to go.
She puts the ball in the right spot, which we've had a problem with all season long, with Katie Ford, Katie McCabe, Libby Smith Chloe Kelly overhitting balls, and they're disappearing off out for a throw in the other side.
Yeah,
We've been guilty of that all season long. And the first thing Smiller does when she plays on the right wing, dinks one into the 6-yard box, and we're in. So yeah, she's got a deft touch.
Yeah, a very exciting player, and of course, when we have a full season behind Smealer, it'll be very interesting to see what she'll provide for us. I do think if Smealer keeps up the way she's going, she's going to be one of the ones that's going to be on that team sheet for me all day long.
19.
Yep.
I mean, she's got years ahead of her, and hopefully at Arsenal.
Yeah, I was going to say that there, as long as it's at Arsenal and not anywhere else, because to be honest with you, I don't think we hold on to Smealer for long if she keeps going the way she's going, because big teams will soon want to pick her up, and unfortunately sometimes the big names are where these kind of players want to obviously go, and they use the likes of Arsenal and the WSL especially to get that stepping stone. But hopefully in as well in the next couple of years that Arsenal will be one of the teams that, actually I'm staying at Arsenal because we are that club.
I was going to say, who's bigger than Arsenal at the moment, apart from Lyon and Barcelona?
Well, Michelle Kang has got money, and that's exactly what talks sometimes, Kevin. So it does.
Yeah, if you want to play in front of 1,000 people and a dog. The fans make a big difference. So if you want to play in front of 50,000 fans at the Emirates, that also holds a big sway, because you are scared. Well, they've all said it. It is massive. They've never felt anything like it. Annika Borba never felt anything like it anywhere else.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Let the fans do the talking.
Yeah. I wish sometimes that would be the thing that would pick up in a lot of things, Kev. But unfortunately, I said this in Lyon that recently there was at one point, I think it was after we lost to Wolfsburg in the semi-final of the Champions League, and it was like the only reason Arsenal doesn't attract these big names is because they're not a big club. But then we go and win the Champions League, and all of a sudden all these players want to come to Arsenal. Like, it just shows you the difference in you making a semi-final or you making a final can make in these players. So yeah, and especially as well when Arsenal are the only team in the English league that are consistent in the Champions League. So there. Jason has said Smealer, I've nicknamed her Amazon because her delivery is prime. That is a very cheap pickup line, Jason. So it is. Before I move on, I'll say a few hellos to everybody in the chat as well. Hello, Michael. I hope you're well. Yes, Beth Mead will be missed very much. Hello, Hadj. And of course, the very first person in the chat was Catherine. And Jason said, hello, everyone. Jason here. Kevin knows me. I'm the one who has the Van Bobby shirt.
Yeah, he's gone half and half. He's gone half and half. Van Domselaar, Annika Borba. He's gone for the pair.
Yeah. Yeah, not bad then, is it? Obviously, Anthony will go on to the second goal. Alessia Russo picks it up in the midfield and almost plays a Bergkamp-esque pass through to Frida Manum, who obviously slots it home. Very lovely. And it pains me so much to say that it was Frida Manum. But Frida hasn't been quite at our usual standard this season, and everyone can see that. But the last few games, I would say that Frida has found a little bit of rhythm again, hasn't she?
I think she has. I was a bit critical of her during the Brighton game, and then she scored from another Alessia Russo assist, and she took the goal against Villa very well as well. But as you say, it was all about the Bergkamp-esque assist from Russo. But I'm hoping that Frida will be able to find her a bit more rhythm over the next couple of games, because we really do want that second place.
Yeah, I was actually not long after you had obviously made your comment in the group chat about Frida, and then she scores a goal, and then I was actually really, and again it will shock many people, but I was actually really disappointed that we allowed her to get the goal back for us and then took her off, because I thought the only player that looks like they're going to get anything for us in this game, this moment in time in this Brighton game, is Frida Manum.
Well, sometimes I wonder whether a lot of Rene's substitutions are almost pre-planned, because there have been scenarios where the person you don't really want to take off is taken off. I mean, I wouldn't have taken Alessia Russo off on Saturday. So, there is a game against Everton on Wednesday. She might have had that in mind, but no. Yes, I think it would. I was surprised that she was being taken off, but it happens all the time.
Yeah, as you said, I think obviously substitutions for everything is already pre-planned in terms of who's going to come on. Yes, Hunter, the chat is open, so fire away what questions you obviously have for us. Paul, obviously next season we're chatting about in terms of who will obviously still be at the club, but do you think Frida Manum will be a valuable squad player coming off the bench next season for us?
I think off the bench or in these lesser games as a starter, the likes of your Leicester, Everton, Villa, the bottom WSL teams, when we're going to be fighting in for Champions League again, and hopefully the FA Cup. Obviously, we haven't got the Subway Cup next year, as long as we do qualify for the Champions League proper. So I think having these players available, so that we can do the rotation, so that we are not tiring out the same players week in, week out, which we saw a lot earlier in the season, which was primarily down to injuries to some key players.
Yeah.
But players like Frida, I think, can still have a place within the squad, but not necessarily being on the team sheet week in, week out as one of the first names on there. It's all about having the depth and the quality, the backup to come off the bench. It goes back a little bit to the comment earlier about Beth Mead going to Man City, and she's not going to get ahead of like Lauren Hemp and people. But look, would you want Beth Mead available to come off the bench,
Absolutely.
And change a game? It's the same sort of with Frida. Could she come on, with 20, 30 minutes to go and just add something different? And we all know she's quite a strong player, and if defenses are getting a little bit physical with us, she can come off fresh, and we know she's got a goal or two in her, as we've seen in the last couple of weeks.
Yeah. Reece, do you think Frida would be happy to be a bench player at Arsenal, or do you think she's going to want more game time somewhere else?
I I don't think anyone who's in that squad has the ambition to be a bench player. Just naturally, I think to play at that level, you've got to have the confidence in yourself to think I'm good enough to start.
Yeah.
What I thought was interesting on the weekend was the partnership with Russo, and some of the other partnerships as well. There was, she played that lovely ball through for Russo from the 10 position, and Russo scored, and then vice versa, the Bergkamp-esque one where she is more in the 9 position. They were much more fluid than I think we've seen previously, and in the same way that we've seen Stina and Russo be fluid in terms of who's playing that 9-10 and where they are. And I think we saw that kind of fluidity across the pitch on Saturday. I mean, I know that Villa weren't putting up that much of a struggle, but there were times, for example, over on the left-hand side with Smith and Hines, where Hines was easily the furthest one forward, and they were just pulling the Villa players into places they didn't want to go because their positions were so fluid. I think that feels like more of what Rennie wants from the team. Players that are intelligent enough to know, work in partnerships and know when one goes forward, the other drops back, or when one pulls inside, the other makes space for the other to go outside. And you saw that again on the right-hand side, again with Smeeder and Foxy. And I think Marnham's smart enough to be able to do that. So it wouldn't surprise me to see her get more game time next season than she had this season, if she can carry on playing that intelligent role. Because, she does give good energy off the bench. But, I don't think anybody wants to be on the bench. So I think it's always, thankfully it's not our job to have to manage minutes for players. Somebody else's problem, thankfully.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with you there, Reece, because I think we have said it, that midfield is going to be a battle to get into that team next season, especially when you've got the likes of Georgia Stanley, Geraldine Whittler, Frida Manham, Kim Little, Mariona, and then Alessia Russo possibly slotting in there. And that's obviously just the team, and obviously the ones that were rumoured. That's not to say that we could be possibly looking at another one coming in there. But I'm just hoping with Frida maybe getting a good pre-season behind her, she gets us, because I feel it takes Frida a very long time to settle into a season, and then we see the best in her coming out the very last couple of games that we have left to do. So I'm just hoping that a very good pre-season behind Frida Manham, and we'll maybe see the best of her. And as I said, that midfield battle next season will be very, very interesting. So yeah. Kev, obviously I want to touch a little bit on Laia Kadina on Saturday. We do have to give her some credit. I think her defending on Saturday was it's one of the best performances I've seen from Laia Kadina, and I think she pulled a lot of Wibben out of a few tricky situations. How did you rate her performance on Saturday?
Definitely one of her better performances. But she's obviously playing with a freedom, knowing that, time's up, she's got nothing to prove to anybody. And just enjoyed herself on the pitch. Not much more to say, really, because there's no pressure. She's not fighting for a space. And like I say, she's probably just enjoying herself. And one other thing from Saturday I have to mention is the poor Aston Villa fans in Hull End not chanting for Sabrina. It was down to the Arsenal fans to give her a Villa send-off. And you can see how much she appreciated that as well at the end of the game. but they are a poor excuse of a fan base.
Say how it is, Kev. On you go. Take it away. So you and Reece want to tell us how poor of a experience it was on Saturday before we move on to the third goal?
Well, strap in. Honestly, when we got there, through the turnstiles, little food van, one bar, thought, oh, this is nice. And then you realise that that's it. That's all there was. And we weren't actually in the stand. We were in this kind of cordoned off area next to the stand. And the food van ran out of food. Surprise, surprise. 12 o'clock kickoff. Who thinks that people might want to eat at lunchtime? The bar, massive queues for the bar, steaming hot day. And the steward, we went up to the steward and said, oh, we're allowed to take our beers in. She was like, yeah, no problem. And she said, oh, there's not many of you, so sit where you want.
It's a sellout.
I think you might be mistaking us for Chelsea. So that caused chaos, and you could see it causing chaos. And it was such a half-assed poor show that, I think when they come to us next year, I'd like they didn't get to use our lovely concourse. We can rope off an area in the car park. We'll put in a trough of rainwater for them. And then half-time we can chuck in, 6 bags of Quavers, something like that, and then film it as a kind of West Midlands Hunger Games for our half-time entertainment. That'd be, I think, we won't do that because the club's better than me. The club's got more class than me. But it was a shambles, wasn't it?
It was. And as for trying to find, it's my first time at Villa Park for football. I've been there and played indoor cricket in the National League before now, but many years ago. I'm trying to find my way in. I look at my ticket and it tells me what block I'm in and everything. I look at the bloody plan. Well, where's that then? Because nothing matches there to the numbers on your ticket. It's completely
different. That because we were following you. Ken looks like he knows where he's going. We'll follow him.
And ended up walking all the way around.
Yeah.
It's a building site.
Yeah.
It's an absolute shithole. And the seats, I mean, I don't know if anybody in the Premier League's got cheaper seats than that. But yeah, they were definitely built for 10-year-olds.
Yeah.
I will go there again, but I'd rather not. Can we get them relegated next year?
That's just a few of how people felt. Anthony and Paul, we've had to put up with the rant. We allowed them 5 minutes, and that was all they were getting, wasn't it?
Thanks, everyone.
I've never seen a women's match at Villa Park, but I have been to Villa Park. But I didn't realise it was so bad.
Yeah, I think what we'll do is put Villa up in the gods, like most people put us up in the gods.
But, it was a nice mention of Sabrina. I always had a soft spot for her. I actually regret having not taken a selfie with her a couple of seasons ago on a Wednesday night when we were playing Liverpool, and I had the pleasure of sitting next to her parents at a game against Chelsea at Kings Meadow a couple of seasons ago. So I do have a soft spot for her.
Yeah,
that was a poor show of Villa fans, wasn't it?
But it's Villa fans. Listen, if Peppa Pig isn't starting a chant, then it's no good, is it? So.
Oh yeah, we had the let's go Villa, let's go Villa, let's go, for God's sake.
That is just as bad as CHE. So yeah, when these fans get to our level of chanting, then I'll take them seriously. But unfortunately, right now I don't. And yeah. We'll obviously move on to the third goal. James, for the third goal, it was another lovely through ball from Frida Manham to Alessia Russo. and she obviously takes it round D'Angelo, which we've obviously just give credit to. But with two Villa defenders chasing down on Alessia Russo, she stays composed, and then obviously she finishes brilliantly. But do you think Alessia Russo has stepped up majorly this season for Arsenal?
I think she's a lot more the player we initially hoped to have signed. She's came into it with a bit more confidence. And I think what's confused it a lot as well is the constant swap. Is either Russo playing or Cena playing? And then for a couple of games, we'll put the two in together. They start to build that partnership, and then all of a sudden, no, we're going back to one or the other. So I think we've found a bit of a rhythm now where both players can be on the pitch at the same time. Both can swap in and out. And for Russell especially, it's helped because, well, let's face it, there was a start the other week where we're talking about this main striker, the WSL champions, and Bunny Shaw. Russell's almost up there in the sense just as many goals plus help in as well when she's not get that shot on the pass and on an assist. So she has up to it, and hopefully next season it'll be more of the player we were looking for in the sense that killer edge. Because right now we are still trying to find that wee touch merit where we're getting it's like averaging something with 15, 20 shots a game.
Yeah.
And 2 to 3 goals hitting the net. So hopefully next season she'll be part of that killer edge and bring that goal tally right up there.
Obviously, Darren has hit us here with a Catherine stat of the day saying that Alessia Russo obviously tops the WSL assists with 6, which is, Paul, for me, that's a very interesting stat, especially for a player who A, has been out of position, and B, in a position that she's not really comfortable with, isn't it?
Yeah, to be up there with that many assists and also the number of goals that she's scored just shows that she's a good all-round player. We're not relying on her just for one or the other. We're relying, she'll fit in and do the job. So, yeah, great to have somebody like that available to us and can literally do the job wherever she's put on the pitch, whether it's the number 9, whether it's the number 10 role, and also with whoever she is now partnered with. As was said a minute ago, the partnerships between sort of her and Stina, her and Marnham, they seem to have come on. It seems to have been sort of since Christmas, sort of this second half of the season. She's just sort of found her rhythm, I think.
Yeah.
Whether they're trying something different off the pitch and on the training ground with various players playing in those slightly different positions, the versatility that we've said before that Renee seems to like out of her players. And if they can take not just Russo, but the others take this end of season form, as if you like, into next season with these new players coming in, then we'll be back to being European champions again. Yeah,
and obviously let's not forget that the relationship that she has with Stanley at England as well. Like, that's another relationship that Alessia Russo is going to be so used to coming in. And if Stanley is going to be a regular starter in that midfield, then Alessia Russo is only going to take it to the next step for me next season, because she has, for me, Alessia Russo has went out and personally tried to build these relationships to better that forward line at Arsenal. We just need Olivia Smith to settle in a little bit more and create that relationship a little bit more. It's the same with Chloe Kelly. They have that relationship at England, and hopefully Chloe's another one that we can keep fit next season. And I think even that midfield to front line is going to be electrifying next season, especially with the ones that we will possibly look to bring in. So before we obviously move on to Everton, we saw Stina coming on for Alessia Russo and have a few chances, especially the chance where she should have pulled it back for Beth Mead and let Beth take the goal. But do you think she's struggling at the moment without Alessia Russo's partnership on the pitch if she comes off, especially when last season we seen her do similar with Frida. When Frida wasn't on the pitch, she really struggles. So to me, it seems like Stina really needs these relationships to be on the pitch to get the best out of her.
Yeah, I think she's always going to be one of those players who relies on service, isn't she? Rather than making stuff happen herself. And that, it's always difficult when you're coming on towards the end of a game, because so much else has shifted as well. Other things have changed. Other subs have been made. But in the right place at the right time, she's always going to be a handful for the opposition. But I think, one of the tricks for next season is going to be how do we build and maintain those relationships that we've been talking about, because we are going to need them to work when players come on, because we've got, as we've found this season, a lot of fixtures potentially, and fixture congestion if we do well in the competitions that we want to do well in. And that's why, I think that's part of the problem where players like Pelova coming on late in games and not being able to affect them at all. We need the people who come on to be able to affect the game positively. And so not just, to give people rest coming off, but actually to make a difference coming on. And that's quite difficult. So that's almost like the next layer to her game, I think, because she's improved. I think she's improved enormously this season in a lot of her play, hold-up play, linking play, etc. But we are going to need everybody to make an impact when they come on next season, because we're going to need all those legs just to be able, so that we don't run out of steam.
Yeah, definitely. As I say, hopefully we get everybody back fighting fit next season and not, and obviously no more injuries. So, Romain, I don't know if you know, but this is an Arsenal women's chat show. It's in the name. So if you're here for the men, shift over to someone who's on a men's channel and they'll maybe listen to what crap you're spouting here, pal, because I don't know where these people come from that want to start spouting about the men on a women's channel. Baffles me. So obviously we will now look on to Wednesday's game against Everton. Now, Paul, from here on in, every game is important, isn't it? Especially when we want to secure that second spot.
Yeah, I mean we're playing against Everton. They've got nothing to play for. They are where they are in the league. But from our point of view, we need to get the 3 points again going into that final game. So while I can see her making again a few more changes just to keep it fresh, we've got to go out there. We've got to start just like we did against Villa. Right from the start, go out and hopefully get a goal in those first few minutes, calm the nerves a little bit in that last game at the Emirates. It's a few of those players are going to be a little bit emotional. Players like Beth that be that last game at the Emirates. Sadly, I can't see it being a full house. It's a midweek Wednesday night game against, no disrespect to Everton, but they are not a big draw for a lot of the fan base. They're not your Tottenhams, your Chelseas, Man Uniteds. So, those of us that are going just need to be loud and, give them a good send off. Like we said earlier, they've been, great servants for the club, and just hopefully get the result for them at this last game at the Emirates.
Yeah, Anthony, that was obviously going to be one of my questions. It was obviously going to be aimed at yourself, but obviously with Paul touching on a little bit there, that emotions will be very high for some of these players. But how important is it that some of these players keep those emotions intact until the end of the game, and then of course they can let their emotions flow at the end of that.
Very important. We now need a win and a draw. It'll be nice to be able to go to Liverpool on Saturday, only needing the draw. Of course, we'll go for the win. I'd say of the two games, tomorrow's will be the easier to win, and so it's important that they do contain their emotions. I'm fairly confident they will. I'm hoping Rene doesn't fall into a trap of Victoria Pelova was one of my favourite players a couple of seasons ago, up until the ACL, and it's a shame to see how things haven't worked out for her. But I hope I wouldn't like to see her starting tomorrow, because we need to treat the game.
Yeah.
Treat this game like we did the Villa game, get the result, and then rotate. And so I expect them to go full throttle. And I suspect Beth will start, but she's an occasion player, isn't she? And so I'm sure they'll be quite professional, as the old saying says. Play with passion, but not emotion.
Yeah. It will be a sad one, obviously, tomorrow in terms of obviously the players that are leaving. And as I say, I just think they need to control their emotions until that final whistle. After that, I'm not caring how much I want to cry, etc., etc.
Yes.
But Kev, how do you see us setting up tomorrow? Would you like to see the likes of Alessia Russo being rested, or Olivia Smith? How would your setup look going into tomorrow's game?
No, I think we've got to go full strength, and if that means it depends if Liv's still struggling with that hip a little bit.
Yeah.
If she's still struggling with that a little bit, let Beth start. It's no great loss in the short term. But Les has got to start.
Yeah.
I know she's my favourite. But, yeah, and at least we've now got somebody in double figures.
Yeah.
The season.
What is it like if somebody can correct me on this, but 4 more goals to go to get to the Golden Boot, is it?
No. Overall for the season in all competitions, she would match Bunny Shaw, because obviously Les has scored 9 in the Champions League, whereas Bunny Shaw couldn't do that, could she?
Because the Champions League is more important than it, so should be accounted for, really.
Should be a double. But she's not going to. Les is not going to catch Bunny Shaw in the WSL, unless of course she rips up the record books and goes mental against both Merseyside teams within 4 days of each other. But yeah, I've got to go full strength, or as full of strength as is possible, for the starting lineup. And then if the game's over and done by half time, then change a few. But we've got to get the points won first.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's not underestimate a team like Everton, because
we've done that before.
We've seen what Everton did to obviously Chelsea, that bust their little bubble. So again, Everton's another team I won't underestimate, just like I won't ever underestimate Brighton. I think what Brighton are doing at the moment with their team is something special, because look at that. They've got themselves to an FA Cup final. They are building their women's own stadium, which I do find bizarre, that considering in the next couple of seasons, I'm hoping that all women's teams now move to their main stadium. But again, it's another step in women's football that Brighton have taken to make sure that the women's team has been taken seriously. And I'm just hoping that one day, not that I'm saying I'm not bigging up Everton or whatever, but I'm just hoping that one day Everton will take their women's team as seriously as the rest of their as the rest of the other ones are taking their teams, because for me it seemed like Everton came up at the start of the season in terms of putting a woman into the main stadium, and then it just seems like they're not genuinely giving two hooty putties about their women's team, because as I say, Everton is one that I won't ever doubt, because you can see what they can do when they put their minds to it, and I was rooting that Everton would be one of the ones up there in terms of this season, but they obviously haven't really kicked on for me. Reece, do you agree with Kevin's lineup, or are you changing that?
No, I think, I agree with Kev. You got to go full strength. Get the game won as soon as possible. I mean, the ideal would be go full strength, get the game won, so you can bring on some of the players who are going to say goodbye. And my ideal would also be that Ruby Mace realises that she misses Arsenal and she loves it and she wants to come back and starts having a word in her agent's ear. But no, I think it's professional football. Second place is up for grabs. I don't think you can be sentimental to start with. Get the job done. I'll go with Kev.
Yeah. As we just touched on there, James, that Everton can give teams a really tough time. Do you think the game on Wednesday for Arsenal will be a tough one, or do you think it'll be an easy one?
I think it'll all depend on what Arsenal turns up. We've already seen it. The Arsenal had turned up against Villa. We could have gave that full back line plus Bobby the night after, and we wouldn't have really had much to panic about. We've seen it the week before, right enough. And we just completely crumbled. I think gaining the importance of what it is, last game of the season, I agree with Kev. We've got to go full strength. I think if we do that, we kill it in the first half, and then we start doing the goodbye subs.
Mm-hmm.
Bring her on Vic. Kadina, if she's not already started, bring her on. Beth Mead, bring her on. And I would, as much as I always say, don't sub a keeper unless you really have to. If Manu is fit enough to even walk to that goal line, gear the last 2 minutes. Just let her hear that crowd one last time. Just for the simplicity, and if fans been able to cheer on them, let her walk to that goal line. But that is on the prime basis that all 3 points are in the bag.
Guys, this is my delusional husband. It's delusional. It's absolutely delusional that you want to play man.
It's not delusional.
It is.
What I'm basically saying is, we all know that sub, the time waste sub. The minutes have went up, it's literally the last kick to the ball. Bring her on purely to be able to hear that cheer.
So say Arsenal are only 1-0 up.
Obviously, as I'm saying, if Arsenal's only 1-0 up, then obviously you don't bring any of them on, unless it's going to be a chance to change the game. What I'm saying is, if Arsenal's killed it, like they're at with Villa, we're 3 up, the points are in the bag. Literally, no matter what Everton does, Everton could go and score a David Beckham halfway line screamer. It will not change the result. Then that's when you bring Manu on, simply to gear that. Everybody else has had that last chance to say goodbye, apart from Manu, because of their injury. Manu's not had that chance to say goodbye. It's purely for the fact, in recent seasons, she's not been the keeper that NAs have wanted. We've all slagged her rotten. But let's not forget, when she first came to the club, what she did provide for us. Gear that chance just to say cheerio.
Pretend Roger Stanley said put Manu up front.
Yeah, I don't think you're thinking wide enough, James. Put her up front.
Wow.
Yeah, as I say, it's literally just to
put her anywhere. Oh, Jesus, this gets worse.
No, it's purely for the simple fact to let her get that last cheerio, because we know she's not going to get it against Liverpool.
Oh, Jesus.
She can score a header in the last minute.
The only way she'll get it is at the full-time whistle when they do the whole thanks for everything, here's your flowers. let her get that last chant of the fans.
Anyway, I'm going to move on to getting my predictions for the game Everton, because I think my husband needs to go to his bed. He's getting a bit delusional at this point in the live stream. So, Kev, I'll start with you. What's your predictions for Wednesday night's game?
4-0. No messing.
Going strong.
Leslie on the ball again.
Anthony?
I'd love 4-0, but I'm going to say 3-0.
I'm going 3-0.
Another couple
Paul?
of finesse.
Yeah, I'm going 3-0 as well. And I've got somebody here that would love Naomi Williams to come on for a few minutes right at the end and get a sort of a cheer from and experience the Emirates. So, yeah, she'll be there with a Naomi Williams shirt on for the next 2 games.
You know, imagine that 4 out of 5 of our subs is going to be Barbara, Manu, Williams. If
Can we
James
play 5 goalkeepers on the pitch at once?
Reece, what's your predictions for Wednesday night's game?
Yeah, 3-0 Manu hat-trick.
And James, are you saying 46 now?
It'll depend on how, as I say, and how we line up. For me, a lot of fans are us came in the same. Of course, we go with Russell, you put Russell on. But I would put Cena on as well. And I think if we do that, I'll go for 5-0.
5-0. And of course, I'll go for 3-0. So yeah, that's my prediction. And Alyssa Russo, obviously, to get a hat trick. And that's how it'll go. So yeah, that is all for tonight. But before I obviously go, I'm going to give a huge thank you to my amazing guests that joined me tonight. Anthony, thank you very much for coming on again. It is always a pleasure to have you on. So it is. It's always nice. Oh, it's always nice to hear your opinions on stuff because it's such a nice take.
Thank you.
And Kev, thank you. You look after that sunburn. Make sure you get some after sun on it, and the next time, make sure you wear that helmet all the way through again.
Yeah, the invisible fan. Always a pleasure, and looking forward to. Not so much looking forward to tomorrow night because I've got to shoot pretty much after the game because I'm using the trains. But I'm really looking forward to the weekend.
Well, I'm sure. I'm assuming you're going to be in Liverpool. Yes.
Oh yeah.
So we shall see you there. It will be a long night for us, considering we're going to take the bus through the night and then get the bus back after the game. So yeah, it'll be a long one for us heading to Liverpool. Reece, a pleasure as always.
Thank you very much. Thank you for letting me rant. Group therapy session. Thank you.
So it is. Are you going to be at Liverpool too?
No, sadly not. That was my my last game of the season. So see you all next year.
Oh, obviously next season when it's a lot more exciting and we're going to win the league. So yeah. And of course, Paul, thank you as always. And hopefully Esme gets our wish that Naomi Williams comes on the pitch on Wednesday night.
Yeah, we'll be at both the games this week. So yeah, be there tomorrow, Wednesday night, and we're driving up and back on Saturday as well. So yeah, again, same as you, it'll be a long drive.
So we're all going to be tired and not going to be watching the game at all, are we?
After the week I'm having, it's going to be a long week.
Yeah, and of course, the last but not least, my delusional husband. Thank you very much for joining me on tonight's stream. I'm sure you've gave us all a right good laugh at the end there.
I'm not delusional. As I say, I'm not delusional. I'd like to have it. Obviously, everybody will not get it, but I think for what Manu's done, Manu deserves it. But you're welcome, Morrison.
And of course, all that's left to say before we leave tonight is there will be a watch along on Wednesday across this channel, the Mr. Arsenal podcast channel, and the Highbury Fans Forever channel. So, of course, if you're not at the game, why not come along and enjoy the game and come and join us on the channel? And obviously, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this channel as well. But for now, all that's left to say is come on, you Gunners.
On you Gunners.